To start off with, we're going to go to app.sketchup.com/app. And if you've already created a Trimble account and you've already signed in, it'll kind of automatically take you to your home page. If not, just go ahead and create a free account. You can create one just from an existing Google account if you want as well. And once you've done that and you've gotten to your home page, we'll have some options for creating a new SketchUp workspace. So next to the button that says Create New, we have a drop-down arrow, which will allow us to choose what units we're going to be working in. For me, for this lesson, I'm going to choose fractional inches because that's the one I like to work with when I'm doing a woodworking project. So I'm going to click that. So when our SketchUp workspace opens, we'll have just a kind of a blank canvas, and we can see our three axes. We have our blue axis, or the z-axis. We have the red axis, or the x-axis. And we have the green axis, or the y-axis. We also kind of have our little guy who's there just kind of for decoration and for scale. We can use the center mouse button, or the scroll wheel. If we click down on it and we move the mouse, we can orbit the camera around. If we hold the shift key on the keyboard and click the center mouse button, we can pan the camera around. So again, that's just center mouse button alone orbits, shift key and center mouse button pans. And then of course we can zoom in wherever our mouse is pointing by just scrolling the scroll wheel. So we have all of our tools here on the left panel. The first one is our select tool. We can select things either by clicking on them, and they'll be kind of highlighted blue, or we can also draw a selection box and highlight many things at once. Next we have the erase tool. We can use it to get rid of things. Let's try getting rid of Ty. Oop, he's gone. If we want to undo an action, we can come up at the top left and hit undo. Bring him back. Now I'm going to hit the space bar. Hitting the space bar will automatically take you back to the select tool, and it'll get you out of whatever tool you're using. So next down is the line tool. So you'll notice next to each of these tool names there's a letter for the keyboard shortcut. So the line tool, for example, you can get to either by pressing on the tool here or by pushing L on the keyboard. And then that'll get you the line tool. You can draw a line by just clicking anywhere and then clicking again to finish the tool. Yeah, by default, lines will kind of be drawn on the XY plane, but we can control which direction our line is going by clicking somewhere to start, and then at the bottom of our screen we have a little series of tips. So the first one says click to set second endpoint or enter length, Alt equals toggle linear inferences, and arrow keys equals toggle lock inference direction. So what that means is I can enter a number and it'll appear in that box that says length down here at the bottom right of the screen. So if I sort of start and have the line going in the green direction, and then if I enter 30 and then I'll hit the enter key on my keyboard, it'll make that line exactly 30 inches long. And then, so I'm going to start another line just by clicking anywhere. Okay, the next tooltip is Alt is toggle linear inferences. So just by clicking the Alt key, we can turn off linear inferences. So right now they're off, and it's not kind of snapping or going in any kind of direction when I get it close to a snapping direction. But if I hit Alt, again, it'll want to snap to certain directions. And if I hit Alt again, now it says they're all on, and it'll snap to the red direction, it'll snap to the green direction, or to the blue direction, or a bunch of other little directions. And then if I just press any of the arrow keys on my keyboard once, it will lock that line to the different directions. So if I want to make sure that I'm drawing the line in the red direction, I can hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I'll just click again somewhere else to finish it, and it'll be drawn exactly parallel to the red direction. So let's practice drawing lines. I'm going to use the line tool. I'm going to press L on my keyboard. I'm going to draw a line that starts on the green axis, and it's going to come in the red direction. I can sort of move it so it's close enough to the red direction and it'll snap, or I can use my arrow keys to make sure it's going in the red direction. I want this line to be 24 inches long, so I'm going to enter 24. You can see that the number 24 is now, oh, well, it was showing up in this box over here on the bottom right. So I'll enter 24 again. I'll hit the Enter key, and it'll make a line that's 24 inches long. Okay. Now I want to draw a line that's going from the endpoint of this line this way. Let's say 36 inches. So I'll start right there at the endpoint, and I'll type 36. Okay. Now I'm actually going to take advantage of the fact that it's trying to draw another line segment already, and I'm going to have it go to the green axis. I'm going to let it snap in the red direction, and I'm going to click right at the beginning where we started. And we've drawn a rectangle. So when we completed the rectangle, it sort of automatically filled in the inside with a plane. So what we can do now is we can use the push-pull tool. Click that. The keyboard shortcut for that is P on the keyboard for push-pull. I'll click once on that face, and I'm just moving. I can move my mouse up or down to turn that rectangle into a 3D box. And again, I can enter a number in my keyboard to give it an exact height. I'm going to enter 24. Enter. Yeah, so now we've got a box that is 24 inches this way, 36 inches this way, and 24 inches tall. If we ever want to check and measure again, we can go to the measure tool, and that's this guy down here, the tape measure tool, which we can get to with the T key on our keyboard. So with the tape measure tool, if I click on a line and then click on another line, it will make a guideline that kind of extends infinitely. But what it'll also do is, before I click again, it'll show me a readout of how far that is. So that's 24 inches, okay? And now if I kind of go over here and hover over this line, it'll tell me, oh, that's 36 inches. Great. So the tape measure tool is good not just for measuring things, but also for creating these guidelines. So let's say we wanted to create a hole in this box, a circular hole that's exactly in the middle. The one way we can do that is by taking and drawing a line. What's nice is that we can, when we draw a line, we can snap to the midpoint of an existing line. So I'll click there, and then all the way up to the midpoint of that line. And now I'll come and find the circle tool, just down here. And again, I'll just find the midpoint of this line. I'll click once, move my mouse outward, and maybe this circle will have a radius of 3 inches. So I'll enter 3 on my keyboard, and then the Enter key. Alright, so we don't really need this line or these 2 lines anymore. So I'm going to use the Erase tool to get rid of that line, get rid of that line, and get rid of that line. Now I can use my Push-Pull tool to click once inside the circle, and then I can either move it outwards to create like a tube coming out of the box, or I can move it inwards to create a hole. So I'm going to kind of orbit around with the tool still kind of active, and I'm going to click anywhere on this back face, and that'll make it go all the way up to this back side. We can add some color to our box with the Paint Bucket tool. So that opens up the materials little dialog box on the right, and this one is kind of for stuff that's already in the model. These colors are kind of are the ones that are already being used with our dude over here. But if we go to Browse, there'll be a whole bunch of different ones. There'll be just basic colors, as well as a bunch of different materials as well. But for right now, I'm just going to find some colors to give our box a color. Maybe I'll do red. And I'll use the Paint Bucket tool to just click once on the faces that I want that color. And maybe I'll give this side a different color. Maybe I'll make that this nice blue color. And maybe I'll make the inside of the hole green. So next we have the Move tool. Let's see what happens if I click the Move tool and then I click on this line on my box. Now if I start moving my mouse, it'll try moving just that line, and you can kind of see it'll try to turn our block into more of like a wedge shape, or kind of a wedge shape going this way. So if we read the tips at the bottom of the screen, you can see it says click to place the items you're moving or enter a distance. Control equals copy. Alt equals toggle auto fold. And arrow keys equals toggle lock inference direction. Let's see what pressing the arrow keys does. Oh, interesting. So I just pressed the right arrow key, and now it's sort of locking the tool in the red direction. It's doing some crazy stuff. Let's see what the other directions do. Okay, so that's the blue direction. Ooh, that looks kind of messy. Let's see. So that's the green direction again. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, the best way to learn how these tools work is just to play around with them and try, for example, with the Move tool, try moving all the different lines and things in the block, and see what the tool does. For example, if we wanted to, let's say we wanted to turn this block into like a give it like a house shape with like a pitched roof, I'm going to draw a line with the Line tool going from the midpoint of this top line all the way over to this line. Now, in theory, I should be able to grab this line and simply move it up to give it like a roof shape. So let's try that. See what we can do. I'm going to select the Move tool. I'm going to click on that line. Yeah. So that should let me move it straight up. Now, if I had autofold turned off by pressing the Alt key, it turns autofold on and off. It would just try to move that line in a flat plane. It wouldn't actually move it upwards like we want. So I'll hit the Alt key again, and that'll let us move the line up like we wanted. So you can make some pretty interesting shapes just by making a simple shape and then adding lines and moving those lines around. But let's say we wanted to move this entire block to another spot in the workspace. Well, first we have to select it. You'll notice if we just click on it somewhere, it'll only select the thing that we clicked on. Like for example, if I click on a line, it'll just select that line. Same thing for one of the faces. We're going to have to select the whole thing. So one way to do that is just to draw a selection box around it. And now I can use the Move tool to I can click anywhere on the screen. It doesn't even have to be on the block itself. And I can move it in whatever direction I want. Again, we can use the arrow keys to lock the direction we're moving it in. Let's try to move it closer to our guy over here. Move it that way. Sometimes it's easiest to move it in one direction and then move it in another direction instead of trying to do both at once. It's kind of interfering with his foot. I'll move it a little further away from him. There we go. So let's say we were done editing this block. We're happy with the shape of it, but we want to make it easier to move it around in the future. One thing we can do is we can select it again. Another way to select the whole thing is to just click on it multiple times to sort of highlight the whole thing in blue. Now if I right click and I click Make Group, that groups all of these lines and faces together into one single object. So now if I click anywhere on it, it'll select the whole group, and I can move it around and do whatever I want with it as like a whole entity. So next up we have the Rotate tool. Let's say we want to rotate our block so that this pointy end is pointing towards our dude over here. I'm going to select our house, our block, and I'm going to click the Rotate tool. And so if you want to rotate your object about a specific point, like have that point stay where it is and everything else rotate around it, I can choose a point. Like let's say I want this corner to stay put and the rest of the thing to orbit around that point. I can click on there, but now kind of we can see that our tool icon is changing color to red. What I want is for it to stay blue, because if it's blue, that means it's going to rotate around the Z-axis. And to make it stay blue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the arrow keys again. Okay, so I'll click there, and now I can click anywhere again. I think I'll just click somewhere along this line. I'll move my mouse around, and it'll snap automatically to 90 degrees. And I'll click again. And there we go, we just rotated our little block around. So next up is the scale tool. Let's see what happens if we try scaling just one of the faces of our little block here. So I'm going to click on our block, right click, go to Edit Group. That'll allow me to select the individual things in the group. I'll select this face and I'll do the scale tool. Now I can click and drag on any of these boxes to scale that face up and down. Yeah, and then we can of course use the scale tool to scale the whole thing as we want. We can even use the scale tool to like stretch or shrink in any direction. Like if I wanted to make the whole thing wider, I could grab this one and go and make it stretch out. So that's the scale tool. Yeah, so that kind of covers all of the most commonly used tools. Yeah, have a play around with SketchUp. The beauty of SketchUp is that everything is front and center. It's easy to make mistakes and then just try again. Keep in mind you can copy and paste things if you want to try different things without sort of ruining what you've already made. Like I can click this group and I can go right click, copy, and then right click, paste, and I'll click again to put it wherever I want. And so now I can be working on different versions of the same thing, or we can use that to create however many things we want in our workspace. So go ahead and have a play around. Try using all the tools we've covered so far, and I will see you for lesson 2.